I always thought my seat at the dinner table was earned by blood, not my credit score. But when I refused to co-sign a $55,000 truck loan for my brother, the silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was a weapon. They didn't just stop talking to me, they began erasing me. That was the moment I realized I wasn't their family member anymore. I was just an asset that had finally stopped paying out. My life was built on a foundation of boring, beautiful, predictable numbers. I liked spreadsheets. I liked the crisp, definitive click of a submit payment button when the balance was paid in full. At 33 years old, I had curated a life that felt like a well-organized closet. Everything had its place. I had a stable job as a project manager for a logistics firm, a tidy budget that accounted for everything from rent to emergency car repairs, and a savings account that was slowly, steadily growing toward a down payment on a small condo. I was the responsible one. The Parker family fixer. It was a role I had not chosen so much as inherited by default. In a family where impulses were treated like divine commands and budgets were viewed as suggestions. My ability to say no to myself made me an anomaly. It also made me the first phone call whenever the lights were about to get cut off or a checking account was overdrawn. I had spent my 20s patching holes in my parents' sinking ship, offering small loans I knew would never be repaid, and soothing my younger brother. Tyler, whenever reality tried to bite him, I thought I had managed to draw some boundaries in the last year. I thought we were in a good place. Then came the dinner invitation. "Big news," my mother had texted me on a Tuesday afternoon. "Come over for dinner on Friday. Tyler has a huge announcement. Aunt Linda is coming too." The inclusion of Aunt Linda should have been my first warning flag. Linda did not just come over for casual pot roast. Linda was the enforcer, the matriarch's sister who carried the gavel of family judgment. If Linda was there, witnesses were required. I arrived at my parents' house at 6 o'clock sharp, bringing a bottle of red wine and a sinking feeling in my gut that I tried to ignore. The house smelled of roasted garlic and lemon furniture polish, a scent that always transported me back to childhood. My father, a man who had spent 40 years looking perpetually worried about things he refused to fix, opened the door with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "There she is," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "The girl with the plan." "Hi, Dad," I said, stepping inside. "What is the big news?" "Let your brother tell you," he said, ushering me into the dining room. Tyler was sitting at the head of the table, which was unusual. Usually, that was Dad's spot. Tyler was 29, 4 years younger than me, but he still carried himself with the restless energy of a teenager. He was handsome in a way that got him out of speeding tickets, with a grin that he used as currency. Tonight, he was dressed up, a collared shirt, hair gelled, looking like he was about to interview for a CEO position rather than eating his mother's lasagna. "Lucy?" Tyler stood up and hugged me. He smelled of expensive cologne. "Glad you made it. Seriously." "I wouldn't miss it," I said, taking my seat. Aunt Linda was already there, nursing a glass of iced tea, watching me with eyes that were calculating. "So," I said, unfolding my napkin. "What is going on? Did you get that promotion?" Tyler had been working at a mid-level sales job for a construction supply company for 6 months, which was a record for him. "Better," Tyler said. He reached under the table and pulled out a glossy, heavy-stock brochure, slapping it onto the tablecloth with a dramatic thud. It was a truck, not just a truck, but a monster. A brand new, lifted, heavy-duty pickup in a menacing charcoal gray, with chrome accents and tires that looked like they belonged on a battlefield. "I am leveling up. Luce," Tyler said, beaming. "I am finally doing it. I need to project success to attract success. You know what they say. Dress for the job you want. Drive the car the boss drives." I looked at the brochure. I looked at the bold print listing the features. Leather interior, off-road package, towing capacity that could pull a house. "It is a nice truck," I said cautiously. "But Tyler, do you need a heavy-duty hauler? You work in sales. You drive to suburban office parks." "It is about the image," Mom interjected. coming in from the kitchen with a steaming tray of lasagna. She set it down and looked at me with an intensity that made the hair on my arms stand up. Tyler has opportunities coming up, big ones, independent contracting. He needs to look the part. Exactly, Tyler said. I can't pull up to a job site in my Civic. They laugh at me. This truck changes the conversation. It is an investment in my future. Okay, I said, keeping my voice neutral. What is the price tag on an investment like this? Tyler waved a hand dismissively. The sticker is irrelevant. It is about the monthly flow. But, since you asked, it is around $55,000. I choked on my water. $55,000? Tyler, that is more than you make in a year. That is the gross price, he said quickly. But the financing is structured. I have it all figured out. The room went quiet. I could feel the energy shift. The casual chatter vanished, replaced by a focused, heavy silence. My father looked at his plate. My mother looked at Tyler. Aunt Linda looked at me. That is great, Tyler, I said, trying to keep the judgment out of my tone. If you can make the numbers work, congratulations. I reached for the wine bottle to pour myself a glass, signaling that I considered the topic closed. Well, Tyler said, his voice dropping a register. That is actually why we wanted to talk to you. My hand froze on the bottle. I knew it. I knew it in my bones. I went to the dealership yesterday, Tyler continued, his confidence faltering just a fraction before he ramped it back up. They love me. The guy said I am the perfect candidate, but because I have been strictly cash-based for a few years, my credit file is a little thin. They just need a secondary signature to lock in the prime rate. Just a formality. A cosigner, I said. I set the bottle down. I did not pour the wine. It is just a signature, Mom said immediately, as if she had been waiting for her cue. It is just to help him get established. Once he makes a few payments, he can refinance and take you off. It is temporary. Family helps family, Aunt Linda added, her voice raspy. You are the only one with good credit. Lucy, you know your father and I. Well, the economy hasn't been kind. You are the success story. You are the safety net. I looked around the table. They were all leaning in. It was a coordinated pitch. They had discussed this before I arrived. They had assigned roles. Mom was the emotional hook. Linda was the guilt trip. Tyler was the visionary. And Dad was the silent assent. Tyler, I said, turning to my brother, you want me to co-sign a $55,000 loan? It is not about the money, Tyler said, leaning forward, his eyes wide and pleading. It is about the opportunity. If I get this truck, I get the side contracts. I double my income in 6 months. I just need a leg up. You have the credit score. It costs you nothing to sign a piece of paper. I took a breath. I tried to summon the calm, rational project manager voice I used when a client was asking for the impossible. What is the interest rate? I asked. Okay. Tyler blinked. What? The interest rate, I repeated. If they need a cosigner, it means they are categorizing you as high risk. What is the APR they are offering? I don't know exactly, Tyler said, irritated. It was like 12% or something. It doesn't matter. I told you, I will refinance in 6 months. 12% on $55,000 is massive, I said. What is the term? 7 years? 8 years? 84 months, he muttered. 7 years, I translated. And the down payment? How much are you putting down? Tyler shifted in his chair. Well, that is the thing. I want to keep my cash liquid for the business startup costs. So, 0 down, but they are rolling the taxes and fees into the loan, so I don't have to come out of pocket today. I did the mental math instantly. 0 down, taxes and fees added, high interest rate. He would be underwater on the loan the second he drove it off the lot. He would owe thousands more than the truck was worth for years. Tyler, I said gently, this is a bad deal. Even with a cosigner, this is a financial trap. You will be paying nearly $1,000 a month for 7 years. I can afford it, Tyler snapped, his charm evaporating. Stop acting like you are my accountant. I didn't ask for a lecture. I asked for a signature. You are acting superior, Mom said, her voice sharp. Your brother is trying to better himself. He is trying to build a career, and you are sitting there nitpicking numbers like you are some kind of bank auditor. Why can't you just be happy for him? I am happy that he wants to work, I said, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. But co-signing isn't just an autograph. Mom, it means I am legally responsible for the debt. If he misses a payment, the bank doesn't call him. They come after me. It hits my credit report. I am not going to miss a payment, Tyler shouted. He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. God, you have always been like this. So little faith in me. You think I am a loser. I don't think you are a loser, I said. But I remember the rent money I lent you last year. Tyler, you said you would pay me back in 2 weeks. That was 14 months ago. I remember the cell phone bill I paid because you said you needed it for interviews, and then I saw photos of you at a music festival the next day. The room went dead silent. Bringing up past debts was a violation of the Parker family code. We were supposed to pretend the past didn't exist. That was different, Tyler said, his face turning red. I was in a bad spot. I am different now. I have a plan. I checked my credit report this morning, I said quietly. It was a lie. I had checked it right before walking in my car, because I had a bad feeling. I have worked for 10 years to build my score. It is the only thing that allows me to get a mortgage one day. If I co-sign this, my debt-to-income ratio skyrockets. I won't be able to buy a home. I will be tied to this truck for 7 years. So you care more about some imaginary condo you haven't even bought yet than your own brother's livelihood? Aunt Linda asked, shaking her head as if I had just admitted to drowning kittens. That is cold, Lucy, even for you. I felt a crack in my chest. The accusation of being cold was one I had heard my entire life, simply because I didn't set myself on fire to keep them warm. I am not being cold, I said. I am being realistic. I looked at Tyler. I tried to find a middle ground. I tried to be the fixer one last time. Look, I said, I won't co-sign for this truck. It is too much. But I will help you. Let's look for a used truck. Something 3 or 4 years old. Maybe around $20,000, if you find something reliable. I will help you with $1,000 for the down payment. A gift. You don't have to pay it back. But I won't put my name on a $55,000 debt. I thought it was a generous offer. $1,000 of my own hard-earned money. Just to help him start, Tyler looked at me with pure disgust. A used truck? He sneered. You want me to drive some beat-up piece of junk while you sit on your high horse? That is controlling. Lucy, you are trying to control my life because you have a little bit of money. I'm trying to keep you from drowning in debt, I insisted. No, Mom said, standing up. She is right. Tyler, she is controlling. She likes seeing us beg. It makes her feel big. She turned to me, her eyes hard and wet with angry tears. We invited you here to celebrate a new chapter, to be a family, and you turned it into an interrogation. If you are not going to help, then why are you even here? I offered to help, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I offered a down payment. You offered crumbs, Tyler yelled. Keep your $1,000. I don't want your charity. I wanted your trust. And clearly, I don't have it. I cannot risk my financial future. Tyler, I said. I stood up. My legs felt shaky. I am sorry, but the answer is no. I will not sign. The silence that followed was heavy and final. My father, who hadn't said a word since the pitch began, picked up his fork and started eating his lasagna, refusing to look at me. Aunt Linda stared at the wall. Mom glared at me, her lips pressed into a thin, white line. Tyler stood up, grabbed the brochure, and crumpled it in his fist. He threw it on the floor and stormed out of the room. I heard the front door slam a moment later. You should go, Mom said. She didn't look at me. She was looking at the empty spot where her son had been. You have upset everyone. Mom, Please understand, I started. Go, she snapped. I grabbed my purse. I left the bottle of wine on the table. I walked out to my car, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, shaking, waiting for one of them to come out, waiting for Dad to come tell me he understood, or for Tyler to come back and apologize. No one came. The house stood silent, the windows glowing with a warm yellow light that felt completely inaccessible to me. I drove home in a daze. When I got to my apartment, I checked my phone. Nothing. I told myself it would blow over. It always did. They would be mad for a few days. Tyler would find some other scheme, and Mom would call me to complain about Aunt Linda, and things would go back to normal. But the next morning, the silence had a different texture. Usually, there was a good morning meme in the family group chat. Today, nothing. I sent a tentative text. I hope you guys are okay. I love you. It was delivered. Read. No reply. By noon. I noticed the change on social media. I had been tagged in a post by my cousin regarding a barbecue happening next weekend. I went to check the details, but the notification was dead. I went to the event page. I couldn't find it. I realized, with a cold jolt, that I had been removed from the guest list. This was the Parker punishment system. It was efficient. It was designed to isolate. They were training me. They were showing me exactly what life would look like if I didn't comply. It was a shunning. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. I kept checking my phone. The silence grew louder with every passing hour. It wasn't just that they weren't talking to me. It was that they were talking to each other about me. I could feel it. I was the villain in the story they were spinning today. That evening, as I was heating up leftovers, my phone finally buzzed. I scrambled to grab it, hoping for a truce. It was a text from Mom. I raised you to be a good sister. I raised you to care about people more than money. If you loved us, you wouldn't let your brother fail like this. Do not contact us until you are ready to apologize and make this right. I stared at the screen, the blue light blurring through my tears. If you loved us, it was the ultimate weapon. She had taken my love and held it hostage against a signature on a bank loan. I started to type a reply. Mom, I do love you, but the message failed to send. A red exclamation point appeared next to the text. Not delivered. I tried again. Not delivered. I went to call her. The call went straight to voicemail without even a single ring. She had blocked me. I sat on my kitchen floor, the phone in my hand, surrounded by the quiet order of the life I had built. It was safe here. It was financially secure. My bills were paid. My credit was perfect. But as the sun went down and the apartment grew dark, I realized that for the first time in my life, I was entirely, completely alone. The silence wasn't just a pause in the conversation, it was a siege, and I had no idea how long I could last. For the first 3 days, I treated the silence like a weather event. It was a storm front that had moved in, heavy and gray, but I told myself it would eventually blow over. I went to work. I sat at my desk and organized logistics for freight shipments moving from Chicago to Denver. I answered emails. I drank coffee. But every time my phone vibrated, my heart did a painful, hopeful little flip in my chest. I would look down, expecting a text from Mom saying she was sorry, or a message from Dad asking how my car was running. His standard way of extending an olive branch without actually using emotional language. But the screen was always blank. Or worse, it was just a notification from a news app or a spam email. The silence was not just an absence of noise, it was a presence. It occupied space in my apartment. It sat on the passenger seat of my car. It felt thick and suffocating, like the air in a room where all the oxygen had been sucked out. I tried to be the mature one. I told myself that I was 33 years old and I did not need my parents' validation to get through a Tuesday. But the conditioning of a lifetime is hard to break. In the Parker family, silence was the ultimate gavel. It meant you had been found guilty. It meant you were in exile until you performed the necessary acts of penance. By day 4, the exile started to spread beyond the immediate family. It began with the cousins. My cousin Emily and I had always been close. We commented on each other's photos constantly. I posted a picture of a new recipe I had tried, a simple roasted chicken with vegetables, and waited for her usual, "Yum," or "Save me a plate" comment. Nothing. I checked her profile. She had been active 20 minutes ago, sharing a meme about loyalty. The next blow came from Uncle Mike. Mike was my dad's younger brother, the cool uncle who usually stayed out of the drama. We had a standing lunch date on the third Thursday of every month at a diner downtown. It was a ritual we had kept for 5 years. On Wednesday afternoon, I received a text from him. "Lucy, cannot make lunch tomorrow. Something came up. Will let you know when I'm free." It was cold, mechanical. Uncle Mike never used periods like that. He was an exclamation point user. He was an emoji user. "Is everything okay?" I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. "I hope everyone is healthy." "We are fine," came the reply. "Just busy." He didn't reschedule. Then came Mrs. Gable. She was a neighbor who had lived next to my parents for 20 years. She was practically an honorary aunt. I ran into her at the grocery store on Saturday morning. Usually, she would stop and chat for 20 minutes, asking about my job, my love life, my cat. I saw her in the produce aisle. I smiled and waved. "Hi, Mrs. Gable." She looked up, saw me, and her face did a complicated spasm of recognition and discomfort. She gave a tight, curt nod, barely a movement of her chin, and immediately turned her cart around, pretending to be intensely interested in a display of organic bananas. My stomach dropped. They had gotten to her. They had told her. I stood there, holding a bag of spinach, feeling heat creep up my neck. What had they said? What version of the story was circulating through the grapevine? I knew my family. They wouldn't say, "Lucy made a responsible financial decision we disagreed with." They would say, "Lucy abandoned us." They would say, "Lucy thinks she is better than everyone else." I went home and cried for an hour. It felt pathetic, but I couldn't help it. I felt like I was back in high school, being frozen out by the popular clique. Only this clique was the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Then, the sadness turned into something sharper. It was Tuesday, a full week after the dinner. When my phone rang at 10 in the morning, I didn't recognize the number. It was a local area code. "This is Lucy," I answered, putting on my professional voice. "Hi, Ms. Parker. This is Greg calling from the finance department at Regional Auto Group. How are you today?" I froze. My hand gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Regional Auto Group. That was the dealership on the brochure. "I am fine," I said, my voice tight. "Why are you calling me?" "I am just calling to verify a few details on the application before we send it over to underwriting," Greg said. He sounded cheerful, oblivious. "We have the primary applicant as Tyler Parker, and you listed as the co-signer. I just need to confirm your current employer and your gross monthly income." The world tilted on its axis. "I did not apply for a loan," I said. I tried to keep my voice steady, but I could hear the tremor in it. "I did not agree to co-sign anything." There was a pause on the other end. The cheerfulness evaporated, replaced by a cautious confusion. "Oh," Greg said. "I see. Well, we have a preliminary worksheet here submitted by Mr. Parker. It lists your name, your address, and your social security number. He indicated that you were coming in to sign the final papers later this week, so we were just getting a head start on the verification." My blood ran cold. He had given them my social security number. He had filled out the worksheet. He was moving forward as if my no had never happened. "Greg," I said, and I was proud of how clear my voice sounded, despite the panic rising in my throat. "Listen to me very carefully. I am not co-signing that loan. I did not authorize anyone to use my information. If there is an application in your system with my name on it, it is fraudulent. Do not run my credit. Do not process anything." "Okay," Greg said. He sounded nervous now. "Okay, Ms. Parker, I understand. I will make a note of that. We haven't run the hard pull yet. Just the soft inquiry to check eligibility. I will cancel the file. Please do, I said. And Greg, if anyone tries to submit this again, I want to be notified immediately. Understood, he said. Have a good day. I hung up and sat there, staring at the wall of my cubicle. The hum of the office sounded distant. This wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. This was a violation. Tyler hadn't just ignored my refusal, he had actively bypassed it. He had walked into that dealership and written down my social security number, a number he likely got from Mom's old filing cabinet where she kept our birth certificates, and handed it to a stranger. He was banking on the pressure. He was banking on the idea that if he got the paperwork ready, if he got the approval lined up, I would be too embarrassed to say no to a professional loan officer. He thought he could corner me. I felt a jolt of fear that was entirely new. It wasn't the fear of being unloved. It was the fear of being ruined. I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking. I navigated to the websites for the 3 major credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I had always known this was something you could do, but I never thought I would have to do it to protect myself from my own brother. I created accounts, I verified my identity, and one by one, I froze my credit reports. Click, frozen, click, frozen, click, frozen. It felt like locking the doors of a house while my family was standing outside, screaming to be let in. It felt aggressive. It felt final. I started a spreadsheet. I named it documentation. I logged the date and time of the call with Greg. I logged the details of the conversation. I logged the confirmation numbers for the credit freezes. I needed to look them in the eye. I needed to know if they understood what they were doing. I left work early. I drove to my parents' house. It was 4 p.m. Dad would be home from his shift at the warehouse. Mom would be starting dinner. I pulled into the driveway. My brother's Honda Civic was there. They were all inside. I walked up the front path. The lawn was freshly mowed. The hydrangeas were blooming. It looked so normal. I rang the doorbell. I waited. I heard movement inside. I heard footsteps approaching the door. Then, the footsteps stopped. The peephole darkened as someone looked through it. I waited for the lock to turn. It didn't. Mom, I called out. Dad, open the door. We need to talk. Silence. I rang the bell again. Tyler, I know you are in there. I know what you did at the dealership. Open the door. Nothing. They were standing right on the other side of the wood, ignoring me. I could feel them. They were holding their breath, waiting for me to go away like a solicitor. I stepped off the porch and walked around to the side of the house, to the dining room window. The blinds were drawn, but the slats were open just enough to see inside. The table was set for dinner, 3 places, not 4. And there, in the center of the table, propped up against the napkin holder like a centerpiece, was the brochure. The charcoal gray truck. It was sitting there like a religious icon. They were looking at it while they ate. They were worshiping the potential of it. I knocked on the glass. I can see you. My mother walked into the room. She looked right at the window, right at me. Her face was a mask of stone. She reached out, grabbed the cord for the blinds, and snapped them shut. I was shut out, physically, emotionally, and symbolically. I walked back to my car, my legs feeling heavy as lead. They weren't just mad. They were committed to a narrative where I did not exist until I complied. The next day, I found out what that narrative was. I met Elena for coffee. Elena had been my best friend since college. She was the opposite of me, loud, opinionated, and fiercely protective. She came from a family that yelled and screamed and then hugged it out 5 minutes later. So the Parker family's Cold Wars always baffled her. "You look terrible," Elena said as I sat down. She pushed a latte toward me. "Drink, then talk." I told her everything. The dinner, the silence, the call from Greg, the locked door. When I got to the part about Tyler giving the dealership my social security number, Elena slammed her hand on the table. "That is fraud. Lucy," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "That is literal identity theft. You know that, right?" He didn't actually sign my name, I said, automatically defending him. He just set it up. He impersonated your intent, Elena said. He used your private data to initiate a financial contract without your consent. That is fraud. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes narrowing. And I have news for you. I bumped into your cousin Sarah at the gym this morning. I winced. Did she ignore you? No, Elena said. She actually came up to me. She looked concerned. She asked me why you were being so vindictive. Vindictive? I choked on my latte. Apparently, Elena said, leaning in. The story Tyler is telling everyone is that you promised to co-sign. He is saying you told him yes weeks ago, that you let him order the truck, let him make plans for this big new job, and then at the last minute, you pulled the rug out from under him just to teach him a lesson. He is saying you did it to humiliate him. That is a lie, I whispered. I never promised anything. I didn't even know about the truck until Friday. I know that, Elena said. But they don't. He is spinning it so that he is the victim of your cruelty. He is making you the villain who sabotaged his career. I put my head in my hands. It was so effective. It took the focus off his financial irresponsibility and put it entirely on my moral character. It made the issue about my meanness, not his lack of credit. Lucy, look at me, Elena said. She reached across the table and pulled my hands away from my face. You need to wake up. This isn't just a bad week. This is a pattern. You are being conditioned. Conditioned? Yes, like a lab rat, she said bluntly. Think about it. Since you were 22, every time they have a crisis, who fixes it? You. Every time they need money, who pays? You. And what happens when you try to say no? They withdraw love. They punish you until the pain of the isolation is worse than the pain of losing the money. So you pay. You always pay. I stared at her. Memories flashed through my mind. The time I paid for Dad's dental surgery because he hadn't saved for the copay. The time I paid off Mom's credit card because she was scared to tell Dad. The times I slipped Tyler cash for gas, for groceries, for rent. I thought I was helping, I said. I thought that is what families do. Families support each other, Elena said. They don't hold each other hostage. You are not their safety net. Lucy, you are their backup plan. And right now, the backup plan is malfunctioning. So they are kicking it until it works again. I drove home feeling like my skin had been peeled back. Elena was right. I had been playing a role I never auditioned for. I got home and checked my mail. There was a letter from my auto insurance company. I opened it, expecting a bill. It was a notice of a rate adjustment. Dear Ms. Parker, due to a recent inquiry on your driving record regarding a commercial vehicle quote. I stopped reading. A commercial vehicle quote. Tyler hadn't just gone to the dealership. He had called my insurance agent. He had tried to get a quote for the truck, adding it to my policy. He knew my agent's name. He knew my policy number, probably from the time I let him borrow my car last year. He was shopping for services using my identity as the foundation. I walked to my computer. I had the credit monitoring alert set up now. I refreshed the page. A new notification popped up. A red banner. Alert. New inquiry. Best Buy credit card. Status. Blocked by consumer freeze. I stared at the screen. Best Buy. Electronics. Why? Then I remembered. The truck brochure mentioned a premium sound system upgrade. He wasn't just trying to buy the truck. He was trying to buy the accessories. He was trying to open a credit card in my name to outfit the vehicle he didn't even have yet. If I hadn't frozen my credit yesterday, that card would have been opened. He would have maxed it out in an hour. I felt sick, physically nauseated. I ran to the bathroom and dry heaved over the sink. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was predation. My brother was hunting me. I washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked pale, tired, and scared. But beneath the fear, something else was starting to crystallize. A cold, hard resolve. I was not going to let him do this. I walked back to my living room and picked up my phone. I didn't call Mom. I didn't call Tyler. I searched for consumer rights attorney. I found a woman named Karen Miller who had a small practice 2 towns over. She had 5-star reviews. Aggressive against fraud, one review said. I called her office. It was 5:15. But she answered. Karen Miller. Hi, I said. My name is Lucy Parker. I think my brother is trying to steal my identity. I paid for a 1-hour consultation the next morning. Karen was sharp, concise, and terrifyingly calm. She sat behind a desk piled high with files and listened to my story. She didn't look shocked. She looked like she had heard this 1,000 times. Here is the reality. Lucy, she said, leaning back in her chair. Identity theft is rarely a stranger in a dark alley. 80% of the time, it is someone with access, a parent, a sibling, a spouse. She took off her glasses. You did the right thing freezing your credit. That stopped the bleeding, but you need to prepare for the infection. What do? I asked. Documentation, she said. Keep everything. That letter from the insurance company. Keep it. The log of the call with the dealership. Keep it. Save every text. Screenshot every social media post where they mention you, if he manages to open an account before the freeze fully propagates. We need to prove it wasn't you, she paused, looking at me with sympathy. And you need to prepare yourself for the emotional cost. If he crosses the line into actual fraud, if he forges a signature, if he opens an account, you have to be willing to file a police report. And if you file a report, he could face criminal charges. I don't want to put my brother in jail, I whispered. Then you have to hope the freeze is enough to stop him, she said. But if it isn't, you will have a choice to make. You can either pay his debts for the rest of your life, or you can treat him like the criminal he is choosing to be. There is no middle ground. I left her office and sat in my car in the parking lot. The sun was shining. People were walking their dogs. It was a beautiful day. I took out my phone. I opened the spreadsheet app. I added a new line. Meeting with Attorney K. Miller. Advised to document all attempts at identity use. I looked at the family group chat. It was still silent. They were still waiting for me to break. They were waiting for me to come crawling back. Checkbook in hand. Apologizing for my selfishness. I deleted the chat thread. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to crawl. I was going to stand like a stone wall. If they wanted to crash against me, they would break themselves. I started the engine and drove home, my heart broken, but my credit locked. The silence broke on a Thursday, not with a bang, but with the chirping trill of my cell phone while I was standing in line at the grocery store. I looked down at the screen. Dad. My heart did that traitorous little leap it always did, a reflex born of 3 decades of seeking his approval. For a second, I forgot the credit freezes. I forgot the locked doors and the dinner table ambush. I just thought, he is calling me. Maybe he understands. I abandoned my cart, half filled with frozen dinners and coffee, and walked out to the parking lot to answer. I needed air. Hello? I said, my voice sounding smaller than I wanted it to. Lucy, Dad said. His voice was warm, easy, devoid of any tension. It was his Saturday morning pancakes voice. How are you, kiddo? We haven't heard from you in a few days. A few days. It had been nearly 2 weeks of orchestrated shunning. I am okay, Dad, I said, leaning against the cold metal of my car door. I have been waiting. Well, listen. He breezed past my emotion, treating it like a pothole he could just drive around. Your mother and I were talking, and we want to put all this silliness behind us. We are family. We fight. We make up. That is what Parkers do. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I would like that, Dad. I really would. Good, he said. So, why don't you swing by the house tonight? Tyler is going to be here. We are grilling burgers, and he has some paperwork he needs you to look at. Just a small favor. Really. He found a workaround for the loan, but he needs a witness signature or something. Standard stuff. We can knock it out before we eat. The relief that had been flooding my chest instantly curdled into ice. It wasn't an apology, it was a lure. "What kind of paperwork?" I asked, my voice hardening. "I thought we established that I'm not co-signing the loan." "It isn't a co-sign," Dad said, his tone shifting slightly, gaining a razor-thin edge of impatience. "It is just character reference stuff, verification of residence, that kind of thing. He just needs a family member to sign off that he lives here and has support. It helps with the underwriting. Just a quick signature. Lucy, don't make it a federal case." "I need to see the documents first," I said. "Send me a picture of them, or email them to me. I will review them. And if it is just a character reference, I will consider it." "Jesus, Lucy," Dad snapped, the mask of warmth slipping completely. "Why do you have to be so difficult? You are acting like we are criminals. It is your brother. You're being paranoid. Just come to the house and sign the paper. Why can't you just trust your father?" Paranoid. The word hung in the air between us. He used it to make me feel crazy, but paradoxically, it had the opposite effect. It grounded me, because I knew I wasn't being paranoid. I was being prudent, and the fact that prudence made him angry was all the proof I needed. "I am not coming over, Dad," I said, "and I am not signing anything I haven't read in advance. If Tyler wants my help, he can email me the PDF." "You are breaking your mother's heart," he said, his voice low and venomous. "I hope you are happy with yourself." The line went dead. I stood in the parking lot, staring at the asphalt. I didn't go back in for my groceries. I got in my car and drove, my hands shaking on the wheel. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove toward my parents' neighborhood. I needed to see. I needed to know what was happening, even if I couldn't be part of it. It was a masochistic impulse, picking at a scab to see if it was still bleeding. I pulled up to the curb 3 houses down from theirs. The Civic was there. Dad's sedan was there. The mail carrier. A woman I had known by sight for years was just walking up their driveway. She stuffed a bundle of envelopes into the box mounted near the front door and turned to leave. I watched her walk back to her truck. A thought struck me. A sudden, sick intuition. I waited until she drove off, and then I waited another 10 minutes to make sure no one came out of the house. The blinds were drawn tight. I got out of my car and walked quickly up the driveway. I had done this 1,000 times before. Grabbed the mail for them when I stopped by. It was muscle memory. I opened the box. It was mostly junk, a flyer for pizza, a catalog, a bill for the water company, and then, stuck in the middle, a white envelope. It was addressed to Lucy Parker. But the address below my name was their address, my parents' house. I looked at the return address. Discover Card Services. Important. Card member documents enclosed. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I took the envelope. I put the rest of the mail back in the box and walked back to my car, keeping my head down. I drove 2 blocks away, pulled into a cul-de-sac, and tore the envelope open. It wasn't an offer, it was a welcome kit. "Dear Lucy Parker, congratulations on your new card. Your credit limit is $5,000. I looked at the date on the letter. It had been opened 3 days ago. 3 days ago? That was after I had frozen my credit. How? Then I looked closer. The application date was listed in the fine print. It had been submitted the morning after the dinner, the morning after I said no. They had applied before I got the freeze in place, and because the card was mailed to their house. I never saw the inquiry alerts until it was too late. Or maybe the alert had gone to an old email address I rarely checked. One Tyler knew the password to. They had done it. They had actually done it. I sat in my car and screamed. It was a guttural, raw sound that scraped my throat. It wasn't just about the money. It was the violation. They had used my name, my reputation, my clean record, and they had routed the evidence to their own house to hide it from me. Dad's call made sense now. Come sign some paperwork. He wasn't asking me to witness a residence form. He probably wanted me to sign the card, or sign some acknowledgement that would validate the account so they could use it. Or maybe they just wanted to get me in the room to guilt me into handing over the activation code. I wiped my face. I looked at the card in my hand. It had my name on it, but it wasn't mine. It was a piece of plastic evidence. I drove straight to the post office. The clerk was a bored-looking man named Steve, but to me, he was a lifeline. "I need to check the status of my address," I told him, my voice trembling, "and I need to ensure that absolutely no mail in my name is delivered to this address ever again." I showed him my ID. I showed him the letter. "Looks like there hasn't been a change of address filed," Steve said, tapping on his keyboard. "But if you want to be sure, we can put a hard lock on it. You can fill out a separate form for individual forwarding. It means we verify everything by your signature." "Do it," I said. "And can I report mail theft?" He looked up, his eyes widening slightly. "Did someone steal your mail?" "My family," I said. "They are intercepting credit cards sent to their house in my name." Steve slid a form across the counter. "Fill this out. It goes to the Postal Inspection Service. They take that kind of thing pretty seriously." I filled it out. My hand was steady now. I was moving past sadness into the cold, clinical territory of survival. From the post office, I went to a coffee shop with secure Wi-Fi. I needed to see the full picture. I logged into the credit monitoring service I had signed up for, the paid version, the one with the deep dive report. I pulled the full history. There it was. The hard pull for the Discover card. But there was more. Under the inquiries section, I saw a list of soft pulls. These were the background checks lenders did to see if you qualified before they did the official hard check. Regional Auto Group, Regional Auto Group, Regional Auto Group. There were 6 of them in the last 4 days. Someone was at the dealership, running my social security number over and over again, trying to find a lender that would slip through the cracks of the credit freeze. They were fishing. They were desperate. I looked at the timestamps. The most recent one was from 2 hours ago. They were doing it right now. I closed my laptop. I knew where Tyler worked. He was a sales rep for a construction supply company that operated out of a trailer complex near the industrial park. I didn't call. I didn't text. I drove. The construction yard was dusty, smelling of diesel fumes and wet concrete. I parked my car next to a row of muddy pickup trucks. I saw Tyler's Civic tucked in the back, looking small and fragile compared to the heavy machinery around it. I walked up to the main trailer. The door was open. Tyler was sitting at a metal desk, wearing a headset, clicking a pen rapidly against the surface of the desk. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. He looked up and saw me standing in the doorway. He froze. "Can I help you?" he said into the headset. "Yeah, hang on a second." He took the headset off and set it down. He stood up, putting on a smile that looked like it hurt. "Luce," he said. "What are you doing here? Dad said you were coming by for burgers later." "Cut the crap, Tyler," I said. I walked into the trailer and shut the door behind me. The air conditioning was humming loudly, but it felt suffocating in there. I threw the Discover card envelope on his desk. "You opened a credit card in my name," I said. Tyler looked at the envelope. He didn't flinch. He didn't look ashamed. He looked annoyed. "I didn't open it," he said, shrugging. "Mom did. It was just for the down payment accessories. We were going to pay it off before the bill even came. You wouldn't have even known." "I wouldn't have known?" I repeated, my voice rising. "That is the definition of fraud. Tyler, you are stealing from me." "Oh, stop with the drama," he said, waving a hand. "Nobody is stealing. We are borrowing. There is a difference. You have perfect credit. You have savings. You are sitting on a gold mine and you refuse to share it with the people who raised you. That is selfish. Lucy, that is what it is." He walked around the desk, leaning against it, crossing his arms. He was trying to intimidate me. He was trying to be the big brother, even though he was younger. "You owe us," he said. "Mom and Dad sacrificed everything for you to go to that fancy college. They co-signed your student loans, didn't they?" "And I paid them off," I shot back. "I paid every single cent." "I didn't default. I didn't ruin their credit. Because you got lucky," Tyler shouted. "You got a boring, safe job. I am trying to build something here. I am trying to be an entrepreneur, and you are standing in my way over a stupid signature. I saw the inquiries. Tyler, I said, stepping closer. Regional Auto Group, 6 times. You are trying to force a loan through. I have to, he exploded. I don't have a choice. He stopped, realizing he had shouted too loud. He looked at the door, then lowered his voice. You don't get it, he hissed. It is not just about the truck. It is the contractor requirement. I paused. What? The job, he said, running a hand through his gelled hair. The big contract I told you about. The guy who is setting me up. He requires all his independent reps to have a vehicle that meets certain specs. Heavy duty, less than 2 years old. It is in the contract. If I don't show up with the truck by Monday, I lose the territory. I stared at him. You are buying a $55,000 truck you can't afford because a boss you haven't even started working for yet told you to? It is an investment, Tyler said. But it is deeper than that, okay? I already took the advance. The air left the room. What advance? I asked quietly. Tyler looked away. He picked up a stapler and put it down. The guy, he gave me $5,000 up front to secure the territory. I spent it. I paid off some other stuff. If I don't show up with the truck, I have to pay it back, and I don't have it. I looked at my brother. I saw the panic underneath the bravado. He was trapped. He had taken money he didn't earn, spent it on debts he shouldn't have had, and now he needed my credit score to bail him out of a hole that was rapidly becoming a grave. So you were going to drag me into this? I said. You were going to let me co-sign, knowing that if this shady job falls through, I am on the hook for $55,000 plus interest? It won't fall through, he insisted. I just need the truck. Just sign the paper. Lucy, please, if you sign, I can fix this. If you don't, I am screwed. Totally screwed. You are already screwed. Tyler, I said, but I am not going to let you screw me too. I reached out and took the Discover card off the desk. I am canceling this, I said. And I am going to the dealership, and I am telling them that any application with my name on it is fraudulent. Tyler's face went white. Then it went red. If you do that, he snarled, you are dead to us. I mean it. Mom and Dad will never forgive you. You will be alone. Lucy, totally alone. I am already alone, I said. I have been alone since the moment you decided my credit score was more important than my consent. I turned and walked out. Lucy, he screamed after me. Don't you dare! Lucy! I got in my car and locked the doors. I drove out of the construction yard, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't go home. I went to the dealership. It was a glass and steel palace of commerce, flags flapping in the wind, shiny trucks arranged like jewels on the asphalt. I walked into the showroom. A salesman in a polo shirt smiled at me. Can I help you find something today? I need to speak to the finance manager, I said. Now, he saw the look on my face and pointed to an office in the back. I walked in without knocking. A man in a blue shirt was typing on a computer. He looked up, startled. It was Greg, the man who had called me. Ms. Parker, he said, standing up. I wasn't expecting you. I want to see the application, I said. I want to see the worksheet my brother submitted. Greg looked uncomfortable. Ms. Parker, privacy laws are very strict, technically, since the application wasn't finalized. Privacy laws? I laughed. A short, sharp sound. You have 6 inquiries on my credit report. Greg, you have my social security number in your system. You called me to verify employment. My brother is out there telling people I promised to co-sign. I want to see what he wrote. I can't show you the document, Greg said, his voice firm but apologetic. But I can tell you that the application has been flagged. We are not proceeding with it. That is not enough, I said. I need documentation that an attempt was made. I need a record that I disputed it. I am filing a police report for identity theft, and I need you to provide me with a fraud affidavit. Greg blinked. A police report? Ma'am. Usually families. They handle this internally. This isn't a family dispute, I said, leaning my hands on his desk. This is a crime. My brother and my parents are attempting to use my identity to secure financing without my permission. They have already opened a credit card. They are trying to open this loan. I need a fraud packet. Now, Greg sighed. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. Okay, he said. This is the standard FTC identity theft affidavit. You fill this out. We attach it to the file. It locks the file permanently. We also report it to the bureaus as a fraudulent attempt. I took the folder. Thank you. Just so you know, Greg said quietly. Once you file this, if the police come asking, we have to turn over the original application, the one with your brother's handwriting on it. Good, I said. I walked out of the dealership with the folder tucked under my arm. The sun was setting, casting long orange shadows across the rows of trucks. I sat in my car and looked at the folder. Identity theft affidavit. It felt heavy. I drove to the police station. It was only a few miles away. I walked up to the front desk. The officer was a woman with a kind face. I need to file a report for identity theft, I said. Okay, she said, pulling up a form on her computer. Do you know who the suspect is? I hesitated. This was the cliff. Once I said it, there was no going back. I was criminalizing my family. I was putting my brother's name in a database that could follow him for the rest of his life. I was ensuring that Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, they were all gone. I thought about the Discover card. I thought about the paranoid comment. I thought about Tyler screaming that I owed him. I thought about the $5,000 advance he had already spent. If I didn't stop him, he would drag me down until we both drowned. Yes, I said clearly. The suspect is my brother, Tyler Parker. I spent an hour filling out the report. I gave them the copies of the credit inquiries. I gave them the Discover card envelope. I gave them the name of the dealership. When I walked out of the station, it was dark. I drove home. I locked my door. I sat on my couch in the dark. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel powerful. I felt shattered. I pulled my knees up to my chest and wrapped my arms around myself. I cried, but it wasn't the hysterical crying of the week before. It was a deep, silent grieving. I was mourning the death of my family. They were still alive. They were living 10 miles away. But the family I thought I had, the one that loved me, the one that would protect me, was gone. In its place was a group of desperate people who saw me as a resource to be harvested. I wiped my eyes. I stood up. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a witness. I was a prosecutor of my own life. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted the truth to be the only thing that mattered. I took a sip of water. It was cool and clean. I was safe. My credit was frozen. The police report was filed. The dealership was warned. They could scream. They could lie. They could threaten. But they couldn't touch me. I went to my spreadsheet. I typed in the day's events, confronted Tyler, confirmed contractor scheme, filed police report, 2024-8992. I closed the laptop. I was ready for whatever came next. 3 days after I filed the police report, my phone lit up with a notification that felt like a white flag. It was a text from Aunt Linda. Lucy, sweetheart, I know things have been tense with your parents and Tyler, but Saturday is my 60th birthday party. You know how much this milestone means to me. I want the whole family together. Please come. Let's put this behind us and just be a family for one night. Uncle Mike misses you too. I stared at the screen. I wanted to believe it. The little girl inside me. The one who used to bake cookies with Aunt Linda and listen to her stories about the 70s. Wanted to believe that the war was over. I wanted to believe that my filing of the police report, which hadn't been served to them yet, was a safety measure I wouldn't actually need to use. Maybe they had cooled down. Maybe the dealership had called Tyler, told him the loan was dead, and he had accepted reality. Okay, I typed back, my fingers hovering over the send button for a long moment before pressing it. I will be there. Happy birthday, Aunt Linda. I told myself I was going for Linda, but deep down, I knew I was going because the silence in my apartment had become deafening. I missed the noise of them. I missed the illusion of belonging. Even if I now knew the price of admission was my financial soul. The party was at a mid-range Italian restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths covered in butcher paper and waiters who sang opera badly. When I walked in, the air was thick with the smell of garlic and expensive perfume. There were about 20 people there. Cousins, second cousins, close friends. For a moment, it felt normal. Uncle Mike hugged me hard, smelling of peppermint and tobacco. Cousin Emily gave me a squeeze, though her eyes darted away nervously, as if she wasn't sure if I was still contagious. Then I saw my parents. They were sitting at the long head table. Mom was wearing her navy blue silk dress, the one she saved for weddings and funerals. Dad was in his Sunday suit, and next to them sat Tyler. He wasn't dressed for a party. He was wearing a slate gray suit, a crisp white shirt, and a tie that looked brand new. He looked like he was about to ring the opening bell at the stock exchange. He saw me. He didn't scowl. He didn't look away. He smiled. It was a predatory, confident smile that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Lucy!" Mom called out, waving me over. Her voice was too high, too bright. "Come sit here. We saved you a seat right next to your brother." I walked toward them. I felt like I was walking onto a stage where everyone else knew the lines, but me. "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad," I said, taking the seat. I placed a small gift bag for Aunt Linda on the table. "I am so glad you came," Dad said, pouring me a glass of wine. "It is good to have the whole clan together. No drama. Just us." "Just us," I echoed. Taking a sip of the wine, it tasted sour. We ordered appetizers. We made small talk about the weather and Aunt Linda's new hip replacement. I started to relax. Just a fraction. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe this really was just a birthday party. Then, the calamari arrived. And so did the ambush. Tyler reached under his chair and pulled out a leather portfolio. He placed it on the table, right between his plate and mine. It was thick. It was heavy. "You know, Luce," Tyler said, his voice smooth and conversational, loud enough for the nearby cousins to hear. "I was thinking about what you said, about responsibility, and you were right." I froze, a piece of fried squid, halfway to my mouth. "I was?" "Absolutely," he said. He opened the portfolio. I realized I needed to be more prepared, so I went back to the dealership. I reworked the numbers. I got everything organized just the way you like it. Professional, transparent. He slid the folder in front of me. "Since we are all here," he said, "and since Aunt Linda is celebrating her legacy, I thought we could secure mine, a new start, for the family." The table went quiet. Mom reached out and touched my hand. Her skin was cold. "It would mean so much to your father and me," she said, her eyes welling up with sudden, practiced tears. "To see you two working together, helping each other, that is the Parker legacy. Lucy, unity." "Family helps family," Dad added, nodding solemnly. "Don't let pride get in the way. Honey, just do the right thing." I looked around. Aunt Linda was watching from the head of the table, beaming. She didn't know what was in the folder. She just saw a brother and sister sharing a moment. The trap had been sprung. We were in public. If I said no, if I caused a scene, I would be the monster who ruined Aunt Linda's 60th birthday. "Tyler," I said, keeping my voice low. "We talked about this. I am not signing." "Just look at it," Tyler hissed, his smile never wavering. "Don't humiliate me. Lucy, not here. I will remember it if you do." I looked down at the documents. My project manager brain took over. I wasn't a sister anymore. I was an auditor. I flipped past the glossy cover sheet and went straight to the truth in lending disclosure. I scanned the boxes: annual percentage rate, 14.5%, amount financed, $62,000. I blinked. $62,000? The truck was $55,000. I looked at the itemized breakdown. Vehicle price, $55,000. Dealer prep fee, $900. Extended warranty, platinum, $3,500. Gap insurance, $1,200. Appearance package, nitrogen tires, pinstriping, $800. He had added everything. He had packed the loan with every single high-margin garbage product the dealership sold. He had sworn to me he wasn't buying the extras. He had sworn he was being budget-conscious. I looked at the monthly payment, $1,142. For 84 months, that was a mortgage payment. That was insanity. But the thing that made my blood turn to ice wasn't the numbers. It was the bottom of the page. There were 2 signature lines, one for Tyler James Parker, and one below it, pre-printed in neat, black block letters, Lucy Marie Parker. They had told the dealership to print my name on the contract. They had told the finance guy I was coming. They had prepared this document assuming that my no was just a negotiating tactic, a little bit of friction that could be smoothed over with some calamari and public pressure. It was so presumptuous, so arrogant, that I felt a strange calm wash over me. I looked up at Tyler. He was watching me, a pen held loosely in his hand, ready to offer it to me. "You added $7,000 in fees," I said clearly. Tyler's smile flickered. "Standard protection packages. You want the asset covered, don't you?" "You told me the payment would be $900, I said. "This is nearly $1,200. "I can handle it," he whispered aggressively. "I have the cash flow coming. Just sign the damn paper. Lucy, everyone is watching." I looked at Mom. She was gripping her napkin, her eyes pleading. "Lucy, please, for Aunt Linda, just a signature." I looked at Dad. He was cutting his steak, pretending this was a normal business transaction. I closed the folder. "No," I said. "What?" Tyler said, his voice rising. "No," I said, louder this time. "I am not signing this. I am not co-signing a $62,000 liability for you, Tyler. Not here. Not anywhere." I pushed the folder back across the table. It hit his wine glass with a sharp clink. The chatter at the table stopped. Aunt Linda looked over, confused. "Is everything all right?" "Everything is fine," Tyler said quickly, his face turning a blotchy red. "Lucy is just being dramatic." "I am not being dramatic," I said. Standing up, my legs felt steady. "I am being financial, and I am leaving." "You sit down," my father commanded, his voice dropping to that low growl that used to terrify me when I was 10. "You sit down and finish your dinner." "I can't," I said. "I can't break bread with people who are trying to rob me." I grabbed my purse. I turned to Aunt Linda. "Happy birthday, Aunt Linda," I said. "I love you. I am sorry." I walked away. I felt their eyes on my back. I felt the silence of the room. I heard Tyler mutter something that sounded like a curse word. I pushed through the heavy double doors of the restaurant and out into the cool night air. I made it to the sidewalk before I heard the click-clack of heels behind me. "Lucy!" It was Mom. She was running after me, her face twisted into a mask of pure fury. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my bicep. "How dare you?" she hissed. "How dare you walk out on your family inside that restaurant?" "You ambushed me." "Mom," I said, pulling my arm away. "You invited me to a birthday party and tried to serve me with a loan contract. That is sick." "We are trying to save your brother," she screamed, not caring who heard. "He is in trouble, Lucy. He needs this truck to secure his position. If he doesn't get it, he loses everything, and you have the power to fix it with a flick of your wrist, and you won't do it because you are selfish and greedy and cold." "I am not the one who is greedy," I said. "He added $7,000 of fluff to that loan. Mom, did you know that? Did you know he is buying the platinum warranty while asking me to risk my credit?" "I don't care about the warranty," she yelled. "I care about loyalty. If you walk away now, if you leave him hanging—" She took a breath, her chest heaving. "You are dead to this family," she said. The words came out quiet, sharp, and final. "I mean it. Don't come for Christmas. Don't call us. You are a stranger to us." I looked at the woman who had given birth to me. I looked for the mother who used to make me soup when I was sick, who used to braid my hair. I couldn't find her. I only saw a desperate enabler who would burn me to the ground to keep her son warm. "Goodbye, Mom," I said. I walked to my car. I didn't look back. I drove home in silence. I didn't turn on the radio. I just focused on the white lines on the road. Dead to this family. It should have crushed me. But instead, I felt a strange lightness. The worst thing had happened. They had said the words. And I was still standing. I was still breathing. I got to my apartment complex. I walked up the stairs to my unit, fishing for my keys. There was something stuck to my door. It wasn't a flyer. It was a pink slip from the post office. "Sorry we missed you. Certified mail." But taped right next to it was a white envelope, hand-delivered. It had no stamp, just my name written in Sharpie. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Ripping the envelope open, it was a letter from a company called Quick Cash Advance. "Dear Ms. Parker, this is a notice regarding your past due balance of $480. Your payment was due on the 15th. Please remit payment immediately to avoid further collection action." I stared at the paper. Quick Cash Advance, a payday lender. I had never set foot in a payday loan shop in my life. I looked at the account number. I looked at the date opened. It was 3 months ago. Tyler. He hadn't just tried to get the truck. He had been using my name for small things, little leaks, for months. He must have used an old ID, or maybe he forged a signature on an online application. He had borrowed $500, probably paid the first installment to keep it quiet, and then let it slide. And he had hand-delivered the notice? No, he must have used my address for the loan, then intercepted the mail until now. But this one had been taped to my door. Someone had brought it here. I realized then that the timing was intentional. They knew about this debt. They had been hiding it and leaving it on my door tonight. While I was at the restaurant, was a message. "We can touch you. We know where you live. You are already dirty, so you might as well sign the big loan." It was a punishment for my resistance. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked to my desk. I scanned the document into my computer. I added it to the evidence folder. The next morning, I was back in Karen Miller's office. I looked different than I had the first time. I wasn't wearing my work blazer. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I felt stripped down, raw. I laid the documents on her desk, the picture of the contract from the restaurant. I had snapped a photo before closing it. My instincts were getting sharper. The quick cash letter, the text from my mother disowning me. Karen looked through them in silence. She took her glasses off and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "This is escalating," she said. "The payday loan is a problem. It establishes a history of use. If he has been doing this for months, he might have other accounts we don't know about, accounts that don't report to the major bureaus until they go to collections." "What do I do?" I asked. "We need to create a legal firewall," Karen said. "The credit freezes are good, but they are passive. We need to be active. I am drafting a formal cease and desist letter. We will send it to your parents and your brother. It will state explicitly that they are not authorized to use your personal information for any purpose. It puts them on notice. Will that stop them?" "It builds the case for prosecution," she said. "But Lucy, there is something else here. You mentioned the contractor requirement for the truck." "Yeah," I said. "Tyler said he needs the truck to get a job." "I did a little digging," Karen said. She pulled a piece of paper from her file. "I looked up the company Tyler claims to be working for. Apex Logistics and Supply. It is a shell company. Lucy." "What?" "It is a multi-level marketing scheme, essentially," she said. "But it is worse. I found a forum online for former employees. The buy-in isn't just cash. They require new recruits to bring financial stability to the table to guarantee the inventory. Tyler didn't just need a cosigner for the truck. She slid the paper across the desk. It was a printout of a recruitment thread. To reach the silver tier, you must demonstrate liquid assets or access to credit lines exceeding $100,000. If you don't have personal credit, you can sponsor a guarantor. He promised them you, Karen said quietly. He didn't just want a truck. He sold your credit profile as his buy-in for this scheme. He likely promised them that he had a silent partner, you, who would backstop his inventory purchases. That is why he needs the truck loan so badly. It is the proof of concept. If he gets the truck with your name on it, he proves to them that he has access to your credit. I felt the room spin. It wasn't just about a vehicle. I was the product. He had traded my name, my 10 years of perfect payment history, my financial life. For a shot at a scam job, he had sold me. And the $5,000 advance he took? I asked, my voice trembling. He probably spent it, Karen said. And now they are pressuring him. If he doesn't deliver the guarantor, he owes them the money back, and he doesn't have it. It all made sense. The desperation, the family pressure, the tears. They were all terrified. Tyler had dug a hole so deep he could see the center of the earth, and he had thrown a rope around my neck to pull himself out. He is drowning, I whispered. Yes, Karen said, but if you let him, he will pull you down with him. You have to cut the rope. Lucy, how? We forced the truth into the daylight, Karen said. No more private arguments, no more restaurant whispers. We send the cease and desist. We dispute the payday loan as identity theft, and we send a copy of the police report to Apex Logistics. To his job? I asked. It is the only way to kill the deal, Karen said. If Apex knows his guarantor has filed a fraud report against him, they will drop him. It will destroy his opportunity. It will likely get him fired before he starts. But it will save your credit. I sat there for a long time. I thought about Tyler teaching me how to ride a bike. I thought about the time he took the blame when I broke Mom's favorite vase. I thought about the signature line with my name printed on it, Lucy Marie Parker. I thought about the quick cash letter on my door. I thought about, you are dead to this family. Do it, I said. Karen nodded. I will prepare the letters. But Lucy, you need to be ready. When we send these, the reaction will not be pretty. They are going to lose their minds. They already lost them, I said. I am just the one finding them. I left her office. I walked to my car. The sun was shining, bright and harsh. I took out my phone. I opened the family group chat. It was still there, lurking in my deleted messages folder. I didn't type a message. I didn't ask for an apology. I uploaded a single photo. It was a picture of the police report number, case 2024-8992. Identity theft. Suspect, Tyler Parker. I hit send. Then I blocked them all. Again, I wasn't hiding anymore. I was hunting for my life back, and I was going to get it, even if I had to dismantle my family brick by brick to find it. My dining room table had ceased to be a place for eating meals. It had transformed into a command center for a war I never wanted to fight. I spent the weekend building the file. It was a physical reconstruction of my own exploitation. I bought a heavy 3-ring binder, the kind lawyers use, and a box of clear plastic page protectors. I printed everything. I didn't trust the cloud anymore. I wanted paper. I wanted weight. I printed the screenshots of the text messages from Mom, the ones where she vacillated between guilt-tripping me and disowning me. I printed the call logs showing the dates and times Tyler had contacted the dealership. I printed the credit report inquiries, 6 of them from Regional Auto Group, 1 from the Discover card, and the derogatory mark from the payday lender. I organized them chronologically. It was a timeline of betrayal. Exhibit A, the dinner invitation. Exhibit B, the unauthorized credit inquiry. Exhibit C, the intercepted mail. My approach was clinical. I had to turn off the part of my brain that remembered Tyler teaching me how to skip stones on the lake at summer camp. I had to turn off the part that remembered Dad carrying me to bed when I fell asleep on the couch. If I let those memories in, I would crumble. So I became a machine. I became the project manager of my own defense. On Monday morning, I met Karen Miller at her office to sign the letters. She handed me the drafts. They were beautiful in their brutality. To Tyler Parker, James Parker, and Diane Parker. This firm represents Lucy Marie Parker. You are hereby notified to immediately cease and desist all use, reference, or application of my client's personal identification information, including but not limited to her Social Security number, date of birth, and employment history. Any further attempts to secure credit, loans, or financial products in Ms. Parker's name will be treated as criminal identity theft and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It is heavy, Karen said, watching me read. Sending this to your parents. It is a bell you cannot unring. They rang the bell, I said, my voice steady. They rang it when they forged my signature on a credit card application. I am just answering the door. I signed the letters. We sent them via certified mail. Return receipt requested. I wanted the little green card that proved they had held the warning in their hands. I went home and waited for the explosion. I expected Tyler to pound on my door. I expected Dad to call me screaming about respect and gratitude. I expected Mom to send a text full of Bible verses and curse words. But Tuesday passed in silence. Wednesday morning came, and I was preparing for another day of looking over my shoulder. I heard a car pull up outside my apartment building. I looked out the window. It wasn't the police. It wasn't Tyler's Civic. It was a delivery van. 5 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. A delivery man was holding a massive basket of fruit and muffins. I opened the door cautiously. For Lucy Parker? Sign here, he said. I signed. I brought the basket inside. It was wrapped in yellow cellophane with a big cheerful bow. I pulled the card out. We love you. Lucy, we are just a family going through a hard time. Please come for Sunday dinner. We made your favorite pot roast. Let's talk this out. Love, Mom and Dad. I stared at the muffins. My stomach churned. This wasn't rage. This was something more insidious. It was love bombing. They had received a legal threat accusing them of fraud, and their response was to send me carbohydrates and emotional manipulation. They were trying to gaslight me into believing that I was the one escalating things, that I was the one making it legal and cold, while they were just the warm, loving family trying to feed me. If I went over there, they would hug me. They would cry. They would say, "Oh, Lucy, why did you get lawyers involved? We can fix this ourselves." And then, over pot roast. They would slide the paper across the table again. I threw the muffins in the trash. I didn't trust them not to be poisoned, metaphorically or otherwise, but the confusion lingered. Why weren't they fighting back? The answer came on Thursday. From an unexpected source. I was leaving work when I saw a figure standing by my car. I reached for the pepper spray on my keychain, my nerves already frayed. Lucy, it is me. It was my cousin Sarah. Sarah was the quiet one in the family. She was Aunt Linda's daughter, but she never really participated in the family drama. She was a librarian, soft-spoken and observant. Sarah, I said, lowering my hand. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you, she said. She looked around the parking lot nervously. Can we go somewhere? Not here, and not your place. We went to a diner 3 towns over. Sarah ordered a tea and didn't drink it. She just wrapped her hands around the warm mug. I heard about the letter, she said softly. Mom was talking to your dad on the phone. He is terrified. Lucy, he thinks you are going to send the police to the house. I will if I have to, I said. They are stealing from me, Sarah. I know, she said. She looked up at me, her eyes sad. I know they are, and I know it is not the first time. I froze. What do you mean? Sarah took a deep breath. Do you remember 4 years ago, when Uncle James, your dad, got laid off from the plant, and they were really struggling for a few months? Yeah, I said. I lent them $2,000 for the mortgage. They never paid it back, but I let it go. It wasn't just the mortgage, Sarah said. Their power was cut off. I was over there helping your mom pack up some boxes because they thought they might have to downsize. I saw a bill on the counter. It was from the electric company. She paused. It was in your name, Lucy. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? It said Lucy M. Parker, Sarah whispered. I asked your mom about it. I said, I thought Lucy had her own apartment downtown. And your mom got really weird. She snatched the bill away and said, Oh, we just had to put it in her name temporarily because of your uncle's credit score. It is just for a few months until we get back on our feet. Lucy knows about it. I didn't know, I said. My voice sounded hollow. I never knew. I figured, Sarah said. But I was 22 and I was scared to start a fight. I let it go. But when I heard about the truck and the lawyer letter, I realized they have been doing this for years. They view your name as a spare key they can use whenever they get locked out of their own life. I sat back in the booth. The diner noise, the clatter of plates, the sizzle of the grill, faded into a buzz. It wasn't a sudden desperation. It was a pattern. They had opened a utility account in my name, likely let it run up a balance, and then paid it off. Or maybe they hadn't. Maybe there was a utility collection on an old report I hadn't checked. There is something else, Sarah said. About Tyler. What about him? He is lying to everyone, she said. He told the family that this new job is a sure thing. He told them he is already hired and the truck is just a formality. But I have a friend who dates a guy at that company, Apex Logistics. My lawyer told me it is a pyramid scheme, I said. It is, Sarah nodded. But it is worse. Tyler has been telling them he is independently wealthy. He told the recruiters he has significant assets. He showed them proof of funds to get the higher tier commission structure. What proof? I asked. He photoshopped his name onto your bank statement, Sarah said. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How do you know that? Because he bragged about it to my brother when they were drinking last weekend, Sarah said. He thinks he is a genius. He took one of your old statements, probably from the mail at your parents' house, and pasted his name over yours. That is how he got the contract. But now they want to do a background check for the vehicle financing. And if the credit doesn't match the assets he claimed, he is caught. He needs your credit score to make the lie true. He is trying to launder his lies through my identity, I said. He is desperate, Lucy, Sarah said. He is in deep. If he doesn't produce this truck, they are going to ask for the advance back, and he spent it. I know, I said. $5,000. Sarah's eyes widened. 5,000? Lucy, he told my brother he took 15,000. $15,000. He was in the hole for $15,000 to a scam company, and he had spent it all. Thank you, Sarah, I said. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You have no idea how much this helps. Be careful, she said. They are cornered animals right now. I left the diner with a new clarity. The love bombing made sense now. They weren't trying to be sweet because they missed me. They were trying to be sweet because I held the kill switch for their entire house of cards. If I prosecuted, Tyler didn't just lose a truck. He went to prison for fraud and forgery. I didn't go to the police station this time. I went to the source. I drove to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to catch them off guard. It was 7 p.m. The sky was turning a bruised purple. I walked up the driveway, past the manicured lawn that masked so much rot. I didn't ring the bell. I used my key, the one I had kept for emergencies. I opened the door and walked in. They were in the living room. The TV was on. Tyler wasn't there. It was just Mom and Dad. They looked up, startled. Mom half rose from her chair, a smile automatically plastering itself onto her face. Lucy, she exclaimed. Oh, honey, you got the basket. I knew you would come. I told your father. She just needs a muffin and a hug. Sit down, Mom, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke with the flat, deadly calm of a judge delivering a sentence. I know about the electric bill from 2018, I said. The smile slid off her face like wet paint. I know about the bank statement Tyler forged, I continued, walking to the center of the room. I know he took $15,000, not five, and I know that this love you are sending me is just fear wrapped in cellophane. Dad turned off the TV. The silence in the room was sudden and heavy. "Who told you that?" he asked. His voice wasn't angry. It was tired. It was the voice of a man who had been running a con for too long and was exhausted by the upkeep. "It doesn't matter," I said. "Here is what matters. You have treated me like a resource for years. You didn't see a daughter. You saw a credit score with legs." "That is not true," Mom protested. But her voice lacked its usual fire. She sank back into the sofa. "We did what we had to do to survive. Lucy, you have no idea what it is like. To be drowning, to have the lights cut off. You have always been so safe, so secure." "I am safe because I work," I said. "I am secure because I don't spend money I don't have. And instead of being proud of me, you decided to penalize me for it. You decided my stability was your emergency fund." "We thought you would say yes," Dad said. He looked at his hands. "With the truck, we really thought you would eventually agree. You always do. You are the helper. Lucy, we needed to get the ball rolling so Tyler wouldn't miss the window. We thought once you saw how important it was, you would sign." "So you forged my consent based on a prediction?" I asked. "That is not how the law works. Dad?" "We are family," Mom burst out, crying now. "The law shouldn't apply to family. We share blood. We share everything." "We don't share my credit history," I said. "And we don't share my financial reputation." I looked at my mother. "Why did you have my Social Security card?" "Mom, I looked for it months ago and couldn't find it. I thought I lost it." Mom looked away. She picked at a loose thread on the sofa cushion. "I kept it," she whispered. "In the firebox, with the birth certificates." "Why?" "For emergencies," she said. "What kind of emergencies?" In case we needed it," she said. There it was, the naked truth. She hadn't kept it to keep it safe for me. She had kept it to keep it accessible for them. I was a break glass in case of emergency piggy bank. "I want it back," I said. "Now." Mom got up. She walked to the hallway closet. She came back with a small metal box. She opened it and pulled out the small, blue paper card, my Social Security card. She handed it to me. Her hand was shaking. I took it. I put it in my pocket. It felt like recovering a piece of my soul. "Here is the deal," I said. I looked at both of them. "I am willing to offer one final off-ramp, not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to testify against my own brother in court if I don't have to." They looked at me, hope flickering in their eyes. "I will not sign for the truck," I said. "That is dead. It never happens. But if Tyler admits to the fraud, returns the truck brochure, and agrees to go to credit counseling, and if he confesses to his employer that he lied about the assets, I will help him negotiate a payment plan for the $15,000 he owes. I will help him build a budget. I will help him file for bankruptcy if that is what he needs. I will help him strictly as an advisor. No money, no signatures, just guidance." "He can't confess to the employer," Dad said, panic rising in his voice. "They will fire him. They might sue him." "He is already going to be sued," I said. "This is his only chance to control the damage. If he comes clean, maybe they work out a repayment. If he keeps lying, he goes to jail." "Talk to him," I said. "Tell him the offer stands for 24 hours. After that, I hand the rest of the evidence to the police." I walked out. I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I had drawn the line. I had offered a ladder to climb out of the hole, even though they had tried to bury me in it. I went home and waited. I checked my phone every hour. I expected a call. I expected Tyler to realize the game was up. At 10 o'clock that night, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Tyler. I opened it, holding my breath. "Yeah, bro. The profile is solid. 800 score, 10 years history. She is locked in. I just need to massage the paperwork a little more. She is being a bitch about the signature, but I will forge it if I have to. Just have the cash ready for the transfer on Friday. I am bringing the guarantor info." I stared at the screen. The text wasn't meant for me. He had meant to send it to someone else. Bro, maybe the recruiter, maybe a friend, maybe a loan shark. He wasn't considering my offer. He wasn't reflecting on his mistakes. He was doubling down. He was telling his contact that I was locked in. He was explicitly stating his intent to forge my signature. I will forge it if I have to, and the mention of a transfer on Friday. He wasn't just paying back a debt. He was expecting a payout. He was selling my info for fresh cash. My heart didn't break this time. It calcified. He had made his choice. He had chosen the lie. He had chosen the theft. I took a screenshot of the text, then another one. I forwarded it to Karen Miller. "Add this to the file." I typed, "He just confessed to intent to commit forgery." Then I sat in my chair and looked out the window at the city lights. The story wasn't about a family conflict anymore. It wasn't about a sister refusing a favor. It was about a woman protecting herself from a predator who happened to share her last name. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't waiting for a reconciliation. I was preparing for the kill. I pulled up the contact info for the Apex Logistics Fraud Department. I pulled up the contact info for the district attorney's office. Tomorrow, I wouldn't be the sister. I would be the whistleblower. The final confrontation wouldn't be at a dinner table. It would be in a room with witnesses, where the truth couldn't be cried away or guilted away. I went to sleep with the phone on my nightstand, the screenshot glowing in my mind like a neon warning sign. I will forge it if I have to. "No, Tyler," I whispered to the empty room. "You won't." The conference room in Karen Miller's office was a study in neutrality. It had gray carpet, gray walls, and a long mahogany table that shone under the fluorescent lights. It was the kind of room designed to strip away emotion, to reduce human conflict to facts and figures. That was exactly why I had chosen it. I sat at the head of the table, my back to the window. Karen sat to my right, a silent sentinel in a sharp black blazer. In front of me lay the binder. It was 3 inches thick now, filled with the autopsy of my family relationships. I checked my watch. 9 o'clock. "They are here," the receptionist buzzed in. "Send them in," Karen said. I took a deep breath. I didn't feel the shaking in my hands anymore. The fear had burned off, leaving something harder and colder in its place. I felt like a surgeon preparing to cut out a tumor. I knew it would hurt, but I also knew it was the only way to survive. The door opened. Dad walked in first. He was wearing his church suit, but his shoulders were slumped. He looked smaller than I remembered, deflated by the gravity of being summoned to a law office. Mom followed him, clutching her purse with white-knuckled intensity. She had dressed up, too, wearing pearls and lipstick, as if appearances could sanitize the rot beneath the surface. And then, Tyler. He swaggered in, but the swagger was brittle. He was wearing the same gray suit from the restaurant, but his tie was loose, and his eyes were darting around the room, assessing the threats. He looked at Karen, then at me, then at the binder. He sneered, a reflex of defense. "So," Tyler said, pulling out a chair and flopping into it, "this is how we do things now? Lawyers? Seriously. Lucy, this is embarrassing." "Sit down," I said. My voice was level, projecting a calm I had practiced in the mirror for 2 days. Mom and Dad took their seats. They looked at me with a mixture of confusion and hurt. They were still waiting for me to break. They were waiting for the daughter who fixed things to apologize for the venue and offer them coffee. "Thank you for coming," I began. "I asked you here because communication has broken down. Every time we speak privately, the narrative shifts. Gaslighting happens. Guilt trips happen. Today, that stops. Today, everything is on the record. We are family, Lucy," Mom said, her voice trembling with that familiar weaponized fragility. "We don't need a record. We just need to talk." "We are done talking about feelings," I said. "We are going to talk about facts." I opened the binder. The snap of the metal rings echoed in the quiet room like a gunshot. "For the past 3 weeks, You have all been operating under the assumption that my refusal to co-sign a loan was a negotiation, I said. You thought if you applied enough pressure, if you froze me out, if you ambushed me at a birthday party, I would fold. You thought my no was soft. I pulled out the first document. It was the timeline I had created. This is a timeline of your actions, I said, sliding the paper toward them. On the 4th of the month, I explicitly told you I would not co-sign, I said, pointing to the first date. On the 5th, at 9:30 in the morning, a credit card application was submitted in my name from the IP address registered to your home router. Mom flinched. She looked down at her hands. On the 7th, I continued, Regional Auto Group performed a hard inquiry on my credit report. This was authorized by a phone call from a man identifying himself as my brother. Claiming to have my verbal consent, I looked at Tyler. He was staring at the ceiling, jaw clenched. On the 12th, I said, I received a past due notice for a payday loan from Quick Cash Advance, $480, opened 3 months ago using my social security number and an old address. That was a mistake, Tyler muttered. I meant to pay it. It wasn't a mistake, Tyler, I said. It was theft. But all of this, the credit card, the inquiries, the payday loan, that was just the warm-up. I turned the page in the binder. I pulled out the enlarged screenshot of the text message, the one he had sent by accident, the one that said, I will forge it if I have to. I slid it across the mahogany. It landed right in front of Dad. He looked down. He read it. His face went gray. He took his reading glasses out of his pocket, his hands shaking, and read it again. Tyler, Dad whispered. What is this? It is nothing, Tyler said quickly, reaching for the paper. It was a joke. I was venting to a buddy. I didn't mean it. You sent it on Tuesday, I said. 2 hours after Mom handed me my social security card from her emergency box. You told your contact that I was locked in. You promised a transfer on Friday. You were going to forge her signature? Dad asked, looking at his son with a horror that felt real. Tyler, you told us she agreed. You told us she was just being difficult about the paperwork. She was being difficult, Tyler shouted, slamming his hand on the table. She has everything. Dad, she has the perfect score, the savings, the easy life. All I needed was one signature to get the truck, to get the job, to fix everything, and she wouldn't give it to me. So yeah, I said I would do what I had to do, because unlike her, I care about this family's survival. Survival? I asked. Is that what you call it? I pulled out the next document. It was the breakdown of the loan numbers, analyzed by a forensic accountant Karen had recommended. I looked at the loan structure. Tyler, I said, the $62,000, it wasn't just for the truck. I looked at my parents. He didn't tell you about the add-ons, did he? He didn't tell you that the price included a $5,000 consulting fee paid to a third-party vendor associated with Apex Logistics? Mom looked up, eyes wide. What? He bundled a kickback into the loan, I said. He was financing the truck for $55,000, but the loan was for $62,000. The difference was going to be paid out to his recruiter as a commission. And do you know what the recruiter promised him in return? I looked at Tyler. He was sweating now. Beads of perspiration were forming on his forehead. They promised him a cash bonus, I said. $5,000, payable upon delivery of the vehicle. He wasn't buying a truck. He was using my credit to take out a high-interest cash advance to pay off the gambling debt he owes to the payday lenders. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the sound of a worldview shattering. Gambling debt? Mom whispered. $15,000, I said. That is what he actually owes. The truck was just the vehicle, literally and figuratively, to wash the money. He needed a cosigner because no bank in the world would touch him. He needed a clean host to attach the parasite to. That is a lie, Tyler screamed. He stood up, his chair scraping violently against the floor. She is lying. She is jealous. She wants to ruin me. Sit down, Mr. Parker, Karen said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of the law. Or I will have security remove you. Tyler stood there, chest heaving, looking at his parents. He looked for the support he always found. He looked for the nod that said, "We believe you, honey." But Dad was staring at the screenshot of the text message. "I will forge it if I have to." Tyler slowly sank back into his chair. He looked like a balloon that had been pricked. "We didn't know," Mom said. She was crying. But it wasn't the manipulative crying of the restaurant. It was the weeping of a woman who realizes she has been protecting a predator. "Lucy, please believe us. We didn't know about the gambling. We didn't know about the kickback. We thought he needed a break." "I believe you didn't know the details," I said. "But you knew you were pressuring me to do something I said no to. You knew you were intercepting my mail. You knew you were treating my financial identity as community property." "We didn't mean any harm," Dad said, his voice cracking. "We just wanted to help him. Impact versus intent. Dad," I said, "I don't care what you intended. I care about the impact. The impact is that if he had succeeded, if he had forged that signature, I would be on the hook for $62,000. I would have a repossession on my record when he inevitably defaulted. I would lose my ability to buy a house. I would lose my clearance at work. I would lose my life." I leaned forward. "You were willing to burn my future to keep him warm. That is the impact." I signaled to Karen. She slid 3 copies of a document across the table, one for each of them. "This is where we stand," I said. "I am offering you 2 options. They are not negotiable. You cannot guilt your way out of them. You cannot cry your way out of them. Option 1, I said. You sign this document. It is a formal admission of unauthorized use of my identity. It states that you agree to never, under any circumstances, use my name, social security number, or address for any financial purpose again. It requires Tyler to enroll in a court-approved credit counseling program and to provide me with monthly proof of attendance. It requires you, Mom and Dad, to return any other documents you have of mine immediately. I paused. If you sign this, I will not press criminal charges. I will keep the police report on file as an incident report only. I will not send the evidence to the district attorney. And option 2? Tyler asked, his voice barely a whisper. Option 2, I said, is that I leave this room and walk straight to the detective's desk. I hand over the text message where you confess to intent to forge. I hand over the timeline. I press charges for identity theft, mail fraud, and attempted grand larceny. You will be arrested. You will likely go to prison. And Mom and Dad will be implicated as accomplices for intercepting the mail. The room was silent. The air conditioner hummed. Lucy, Tyler said. He looked at me. His eyes were red. You wouldn't do that. I am your brother. I am doing it right now, I said. The only thing stopping me is that piece of paper in front of you. Tyler looked at the document. He looked at the pen. Then, the panic broke through. I can't sign this, he said, his voice rising in pitch. If I admit to this, if I don't get the truck, the guys at Apex, they are going to come for me. I owe them the advance. I spent it. Lucy, I can't pay it back. That is not my problem, I said. Please. He reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I pulled back. Just do it this once. Just co-sign the truck. I swear to God. I will pay it off. I will work 3 jobs. I will do anything. Just save me. Lucy, please, if you love me, you will save me. It was the ultimate emotional trap, the one that had worked for 30 years. If you love me, you will suffer for me. I looked at him. I saw the fear. I saw the desperation. And I felt a wave of sadness so profound it almost knocked the wind out of me. I did love him. He was my little brother. I remembered holding his hand when he got stitches. I remembered cheering for him at his graduation. But I also saw the predator. I saw the person who viewed my love as a weakness to be exploited. I do love you, Tyler, I said softly. Hope flared in his eyes. But the answer is no, I said. I am still saying no. I will not buy your safety with my life. I will not set myself on fire just because you decided to play with matches. You are going to let them ruin me? He shouted. You are going to let me crash? You already crashed, I said. I am just refusing to be in the car with you. I looked at my parents. Well, what is it going to be? Dad picked up the pen. He looked old. He looked defeated. He looked at Tyler, then at me. She is right, Dad whispered. Jim? Mom said, looking at him in shock. She is right, Diane, Dad said, his voice gaining a shred of strength. Look at what he did. Look at that text message. He was going to steal from her, from his own sister. Dad signed the paper. He pushed it toward Karen. He didn't look at Tyler. He couldn't. The shame was radiating off him in waves. I am sorry, Lucy, Dad said, staring at the table. I am so sorry. Mom looked at Dad's signature. Then she looked at me. Her face hardened. The tears stopped. In their place was a cold granite resolve. I won't sign it, she said. Mom, I said, if you don't sign, I prosecute. Go ahead, she spat. Put your brother in jail. Ruin the family name. Show everyone what kind of woman you really are. She stood up, clutching her purse. You are choosing money over blood, she said. You are choosing a credit score over your own flesh and blood. You are cold. Lucy, you have ice in your veins. It was the insult she had used since I was a child whenever I tried to assert a boundary. Cold. But this time, it didn't freeze me. I am not choosing money over blood, I said, meeting her gaze. I am choosing reality over fantasy. The fantasy is that Tyler is a victim and I am a bottomless resource. The reality is that he is a criminal and I am a person. I am choosing to be a person. Mom stared at me with pure hatred. She turned to Tyler. Come on, Tyler, we are leaving. We don't need to listen to this. Tyler didn't move. He was staring at the document Dad had signed. He realized the front had fractured. Dad had defected to the side of the truth. I have to sign, Tyler whispered. Tyler, Mom snapped. Mom, she has the text, Tyler yelled, turning on her. She has the text. If she goes to the cops, I go to jail. I can't go to jail. Tyler grabbed the pen. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold it. He scribbled his name on the line. He pushed it toward Karen. There, he choked out. There, are you happy? No, I said. I am not happy. I am safe. There is a difference. I stood up. Karen will notarize these, I said. You will receive copies. The cease and desist is now in effect. If I see one single inquiry, one single letter, one single suspicious charge, the deal is void, and the police get the file. I looked at them one last time. Dad, head in his hands. Tyler, hyperventilating. Mom, standing like a statue of indignation. Goodbye, I said. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out of the conference room. I walked through the reception area. I pushed open the heavy glass doors of the building and stepped out into the bright, blinding sunlight. I took a deep breath. The air tasted like car exhaust and city dust, but to me, it was the sweetest thing I had ever smelled. I walked to my car, but I didn't go home immediately. I had a final circuit to complete. I sat in the driver's seat and opened my laptop. I logged into the credit bureaus. I upgraded the freezes to the 7-year fraud alert status, attaching the signed confession from Tyler as evidence. Equifax, locked. Experian, locked. TransUnion, locked. I logged into my bank. I changed my password to a randomly generated string of 20 characters. I changed my security questions. Mother's maiden name? No. Name of first pet? No. I chose questions they couldn't answer. Favorite teacher? Mrs. Halloway. They didn't know her. They never asked about my school days. I called the post office and confirmed the permanent redirection of my mail to a PEO. box in a different zip code. I called the dealership. I spoke to Greg. I told him the application was formally withdrawn and that any future attempt to access my file would result in legal action against the dealership for negligence. He apologized profusely. I didn't care. Finally, I opened the family group chat one last time. I saw a message from Mom. Sent 5 minutes ago. You have destroyed this family. I hope you are warm at night with your money. I looked at the message. I felt a pang, a ghost of the old guilt. But then I looked at the binder sitting on the passenger seat. I looked at the police report number. I typed a reply. I am not destroying the family. I am protecting myself from its destruction. I hit send. Then, I did the only thing left to do. I left the group chat. I blocked the numbers. Not for a day, not for a week, indefinitely. I started the car. I put it in gear. I drove away from the lawyer's office, away from the dealership, away from the house with the manicured lawn and the secrets in the firebox. I didn't know where I was going for dinner. I didn't know who I would spend Christmas with. The future was a blank slate, unwritten and uncertain. But it was mine. I owned my name. I owned my history. I owned my mistakes and my victories. I was solvent. I was secure. And for the first time in 33 years, I was free. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't an easy one to tell, but I believe that sometimes you have to burn the bridge to stop the enemy from crossing. I hope it gives you the courage to draw your own lines, no matter who is on the other side. I would love to hear from you. Please comment below and tell me where you are listening from. Have you ever had to make a tough financial choice involving family? How did you handle it? If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories for more tales of justice, boundaries, and reclaiming your life. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in English in the comments section. Stay safe and protect your peace.